President Trump recently signed 4 executive orders aimed at reviving the moribund coal mining industry here in the United States. In doing so, he frequently used the term clean coal, as if coal either was or could be made into a clean source of energy. In this video, I will show that coal is by far the dirtiest of the fossil fuels, and that both burning and mining coal have severe negative environmental consequences. Coal-burning power plants currently produce about 36% of the world's electricity. This number is declining slowly as more renewable energy sources come online. The notion that coal is a clean source of electric energy simply is false. In fact, coal is more damaging to the environment than the other fossil fuels, oil and natural gas. As I have listed in this chart, there are at least 6 reasons why coal is so damaging to the environment. The combustion of fossil fuels, including coal, oil, and natural gas, all produce carbon dioxide, which is a potent greenhouse gas. When it enters the atmosphere, it contributes to the warming of the planet. But of the 3 fossil fuels that can be burned to produce electricity, coal is by far the most environmentally damaging. First, because of coal's chemical composition, the amount of CO2 emitted into the atmosphere to produce a given amount of electric energy, say a kilowatt hour, is significantly greater than for oil or natural gas. Second, coal is richer in sulfur and nitrogen impurities than either oil or natural gas. So when coal is burned to produce a given amount of electric energy, more sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen are emitted into the atmosphere than from oil and gas burning power plants. The sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen that are emitted from coal-fired power plants produce acid rain and air pollution. Compared with natural gas units, coal-fired units produce over 90 times as much sulfur dioxide, twice as much carbon dioxide, and over 5 times as much nitrogen oxides per unit of electricity, largely because coal contains so much more sulfur and carbon than natural gas. Third, the coal burned to produce electricity contains other impurities, including heavy metals such as mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, and chromium, all of which are hazardous to human health. For example, coal-fired power plants are responsible for over 40% of the mercury emitted into the atmosphere here in the United States. In addition, coal-fired power plants here in the United States emit more than 40 tons of lead and 38 tons of arsenic into the atmosphere each year. This, even though most of the coal-fired power plants here in the United States are fitted with scrubbers that remove up to 98% of particulates from the flue gases that enter the atmosphere. Fourth, the sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen emitted in the flue gas from coal-fired power plants form very fine particulates, which are hazardous to health when breathed in. Fifth, the coal used in power plants also contains small amounts of radium and thorium in their radioactive decay products. While the amount of radioactivity emitted into the atmosphere by coal-fired power plants is quite small, it is greater than that released by nuclear power plants of comparable generating capacity. Sixth, when coal is used to fuel power plants, it does not burn completely. Depending on the coal used, between 10% and 45% remains as ash following combustion. The ash contains small percentages of harmful substances such as arsenic, chromium, lead, and mercury. Only a very small percentage of the ash is emitted into the atmosphere. Most is captured by a variety of filtering techniques, and up to 60% of the captured coal ash is recycled into products such as concrete, gypsum, and fill material for construction. But this still leaves a substantial amount of hazardous material that is stored either as dry material in landfills or which is mixed with water and stored in large ponds. Ideally, these wet and dry storage facilities would be fully lined to prevent hazardous material entering nearby waterways and aquifers. But in practice, there have been leaks, and in some cases, there have been significant environmental disasters involving spills from these ash dumps. The fossil fuel industry often claims that by employing carbon capture and sequestration techniques, the carbon dioxide emissions from coal, oil, and gas-fired power plants can be reduced considerably. What they don't mention is that carbon capture and sequestration is both expensive and energy intensive. When the energy needed to remove the carbon dioxide from flue gases, transport it to locations where it can be sequestered in safe, stable geological formations deep underground, and to pump it down into those formations is considered, the net percentage reduction in carbon dioxide emissions is relatively small. In addition to the negative environmental effects caused by burning coal, there are substantial negative effects associated with the mining of coal. Here in the United States, approximately 67% of the coal used in power plants is obtained by surface mining techniques. Worldwide, the percentage is somewhat lower, but still is approximately 40%. Surface mining, especially techniques like mountaintop removal, permanently alters the landscape by removing vegetation and creating large barren areas. This destroys habitats for various species, leading to the displacement and potentially the extinction of wildlife. Mining activities, including the removal of topsoil and the creation of exposed slopes, increases the risk of soil erosion. This can lead to sedimentation of waterways, reducing their quality and harming aquatic life. Surface mining also can drastically change the topography of the land, creating open pits, spoil piles, and valley fills. These changes can disrupt natural drainage patterns and alter the overall landscape, impacting biodiversity and ecosystem functions. Coal mining operations also can contaminate water sources through acid mine drainage, which leaches heavy metals and other pollutants into nearby streams, rivers, and groundwater. Erosion from mining sites also can introduce large amounts of sediment into waterways, clogging streams and aquatic ecosystems. Mining operations also generate significant amounts of dust, which can degrade air quality and pose respiratory health risks for workers and nearby residents. Coal mining operations also can release methane, a potent greenhouse gas, into the atmosphere, causing additional warming of the atmosphere. An oxymoron is a statement that is self-contradictory. If we consider all the negative impacts of mining and burning coal to produce electric energy, we see that clean coal clearly is an oxymoron.